yourself so small that you could just poof out of existence, because there's so much fear in saying what you really want to say, or you feel so terrible about something that happened, but you're looping and looping and looping on the thing, or you just feel that what you have to share is not good enough, that you aren't enough, that essentially other people are more important. There are numerous, countless, almost infinite ways that self-hatred can manifest and shine through. And this video is not necessarily going to be focused on defining self-hate and all the ways that self-hate could shine through. Essentially more about how it doesn't just affect you, it also affects the people around you. This is something that we could hold within the frame of love amplifies love. Equally, hate amplifies hate. Hate is a strong word, yeah. And oftentimes when we're speaking of self-hatred, it might not be as extreme as the totality of what hate means, though there is an essence of a denying of self, which is hating in some way, because it is a full non-acceptance, yeah. But hate amplifies hate. One of my teachers posted a post about how hate makes you high. Why? Because there are certain hormones that are released in that state of hate, which is often catalyzed by something else, right? By a mistake, a rejection, something like that. And a stress hormone is released, and over time, if that's repeated enough, we become addicted to it. Similar to trauma. You may have experienced a lot of stress, maybe in your childhood home, and it got repeated and repeated, so much so that that is a state that you feel familiar in. And familiar doesn't mean healthy or beneficial or generative. Familiar just means known. And in adulthood, we actually unconsciously seek ways to recreate that thing, or recreate a moment which could release some more of those hormones in an attempt to resolve something. But in actuality, if we're not conscious about it, it will just repeat without resolution, and we will get fed those hormones that we've become so used to, so much so that we're dependent on them to feel normal, even if they don't feel good. And the cycle perpetuates. So, in essence, by extension, when we don't embrace or accept ourselves, it has negative ripples. Because, think about it. If you don't express a concern or a boundary in the moment, or with enough time, if there was a certain thing that was going to happen, that concern or those unexpressed emotions may surface later. And let's say within the example, it's you've got to go somewhere, or you agreed to go somewhere and you didn't voice some concerns connected to this thing that you're going to. It reaches the time that you're about to go to the thing, and those concerns bubble up again, and this causes stress for the other person who's involved, because they aren't able to navigate that or adapt because there was no time. And so it causes tension in yourself, it causes tension in the other, and it feeds another reason why you should continue to dislike yourself, or it feeds a story as to why you don't matter, or why you do everything wrong, whatever the story is. The self-hatred has roots, of course it does. It doesn't just poof arrive out of anywhere. It is trained, it is programmed, it is inherited sometimes. So compassion to that. But essentially, the ripple effect of self-hatred is essentially the burden that you carry, this dark cloud that weighs you down. It can start to puppet, let's say, the other people around you, because this self-hatred is a field phenomena. It's not just you and it's not just yours. And so it seeks ways to puppet others by, like, if there's an entry point, right? If they resonate with a certain story. Maybe they believe in some way that they're not worthwhile or worthy or good enough or whatever it might be. There's an entry point for this field phenomenon to then dig its hooks in and puppet them too. And so then it's this ripple effect of my self-hate with your self-hate. And here we go, having a fight, a hate fight. And of course, this leads to arguments. This leads to miscommunications, feelings of neglect, feelings of frustration. And this does reinforce this vicious cycle of self-hatred. So self-hatred isn't just an internal experience, right? It doesn't just affect you. You're a part of an ecology. If you live in a household with 2 other people and you are just like leaking in self-hatred, others are going to feel that. They're going to be impacted by that. Okay, and this is not to further feed cycles of self-hatred, these words. Not at all. This is to, with kindness, with compassion, bring your attention to something you might not be aware of, or if you are aware of it, may this be an encouraging nudge to have a look at that. I might get more into that a little bit later, but essentially, why do we hate ourselves? Okay. The root causes of self-hatred don't arise randomly. There are psycho-spiritual reasons behind it. There are very tangible reasons behind it. For starters, your childhood. Okay. How were you brought up? Did your parents exhibit that self-hatred behavior? Okay. Was one parent super shut down, not expressing themselves in the face of the other? Was there conditional love? Right? You were subliminally told that you weren't enough the way that you were, or you had to fit this sort of criteria in order to receive validation or acceptance. Was love given for an achievement instead of just who you were? This can create deep feelings of unworthiness and subcommunicates, I'm not enough, I don't accept myself, aka self-hatred, not self-love, right? There are societal cultural programs, right? There's this absolute emphasis on success, achievement, how you look, your appearance, perfectionism, and this can totally lead to feelings of inadequacy, especially if you don't feel like you meet those standards. Right? How can we meet standards of perfection? How can we do everything right? We can't. It's a false expectation. But if you don't catch that, then that will be used as fuel to the fire of your self-hatred, right? There are ancestral patterns, inherited ancestral beliefs, right? It could be like a meme for the lineage, and this is big, right? Like, don't expect that this to just go away overnight. Like, if this is something that's been passed down, if this is a theme in your lineage, like, that takes a little bit of time to disentangle, but it can be done. Okay, it can be done. But just recognize in me saying that your beliefs about yourself or how you see the world, these may have been given to you. Just because you believe a certain thing doesn't mean it's true. Just because you view the world in a certain way doesn't mean that that's the way that your essence wants to view the world or yourself. But these are internalized mechanisms of how we form our identity, which then perpetuates the addiction to the stress hormones, to the self-hatred, because it's so habitual, it's so normal, it's so familiar. As I mentioned before, we become addicted to those stress hormones that self-hatred generates because it's the known. The known is what we default to. And if your known is the ancestral pattern, if your known is how you were brought up, that's your default, if you're not conscious of it. For me, that default is very much rooted in perfectionism, in a dissociation away from my true feelings, a dissociation away from the fact that I have something to say, and well, of course I have something to say, but a dissociation away from the fear of bringing that through if it is in contrast or conflict with the other. That's a huge thing for me, huge. In some areas of my life, whoa, we're good. In others, that's a real tender spot for me. I invite you to just take a second, take a breath with me. Sigh out. And if it feels accessible to you, if you feel comfortable doing that, I invite you to just lightly close your eyes just for a moment. And I invite you to ask yourself, is there an area in my life that I really feel a lot of self-hatred within? Is there an area in my life where I feel self-hatred? Health, appearance, intelligence, social status, within your family, socially. Just notice. You don't need to get too caught up in the story. Just notice. You're allowed to notice. You're allowed to be aware of this. It's helpful if you're aware of this. So just take a deep breath, sigh out, and lightly open your eyes. Good job. This may have seemed simple, but it takes courage to just close our eyes for a moment and ask ourselves these questions, yeah? So, good job. There are ways, wherever there is a problem, there is a solution. So, in order to liberate yourself from these toxic, draining cycles of self-hatred that are spreading hate into your network, that is creating unnecessary drama, that is creating leaks in your energy because you're treading on eggshells, or you are feeding the story that you will be persecuted if you shine your light. And as you feed it, this wolf just gets bigger and bigger. It's never too late to stop feeding that wolf, okay? That wolf may be big and scary, but if you stop feeding it, it has no food to grow bigger. It will shrink. You can become a force of love, fiercely committed and devoted to loving self in a whole and embodied way, which amplifies love and sends ripples of love to the other, allowing you to love others too. When you are steeped in self-hatred for a gazillion different reasons, it stagnates your light. It's like putting the lid on top of you shining that beacon. And we don't want that. That's not what you came here to do. Maybe you needed to learn this lesson, and that's beautiful. It might not feel pretty, it might not feel beautiful, but from a meta perspective, how beautiful. Someone who's learning to remember love. From awareness, transformation can begin. Okay, that is the first step. And I know for myself, I have tried to bypass this step unconsciously so many times. I've just tried to skip to step 5 without first just taking the time to acknowledge what is really going on. What am I really feeling? What do I believe about myself right now? What do I really want to say? What I really want to say, for example, is I don't want to give. Not now. I prefer to take. Oof. Hi, shadow. Nice to see you. I can accept you. And in that acceptance, there's peace. It's hard to get there because we're like, no, I don't identify with that. I'm good. I'm the light. It's love and light here only. We're all, right? False. Your shadow needs acknowledgement. Because oftentimes the self-hatred arises from a denial of our shadow. And we try to shove it away, shove it in the attic, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and falls through the roof. So you don't have to like the things that you're accepting. I don't like so many of the shadowy things that I must accept about myself based on my conditioning, my ancestral patterns, based on my family of origin and the things that I learned there about how to relate with myself and relate with others and how to communicate or not. That shit is uncomfortable. I'm like, oh God, that is existing in me. Okay, will I be like totally persecuted by who? Myself? And yes, often it's a persecution by self, right? That's the self-hatred. So in dismantling self-hatred, it's so much about just gazing at the shadow and being like, what are you? Okay, I see you. You are this. What you really want to say is this. And you don't have to absolutely put it on and tear the house down, right? Like in family constellations, like if someone really wants to scream like they're livid, they don't have to scream and start hitting the other representatives. No. Sometimes the most efficient, actually in family constellations, all the time, the most efficient way of moving that through the system is being like, I want to scream really loud right now. I feel really angry right now. Acknowledging reality as it is. And that's just a simple example, yeah, like it's nuanced, but you get what I mean, right? So to break free from self-hatred, as I said, acknowledge reality as it is. And that's not going to be comfortable all the time, okay? I'm not going to tell you it's going to be comfortable all the time because it just isn't. But when you do that, you're going to be able to see, oh, this is my shadow of the victim. And careful with the my, like you don't have to fully identify with it because that's also an issue. But here's the victim. Oh, here's the self-saboteur. Oh, here's the perfectionist who's absolutely freaking out because I can't get everything right. And then in a self-destructive, like, oh, can't get it right, tear it all down. You'll start to notice those qualities of yourself. And then if you can accept them, right? You don't have to like them, but if you can just accept that that exists in you, then you can do something about it. But only then can you do something about it, okay? Trust me, I have tried to skip this dang step and it does not work. I have to accept them first. I've tried to just like get rid of them without accepting them and it doesn't work, okay? If it has worked for you, let me know. But from experience, I have to accept the thing. I have to accept the things that are causing the self-hatred before I can change them. And where do you go from there? Great question. It's going to look different for you as it does for me. But generally, after there is acceptance, that is one step on the path, a big one. And then the next step reveals itself because the path always reveals itself as you walk down it. So don't try to future project too much right here. Take it steady, take it small, slowly. But it could look like seeking therapeutic support, okay? If you have the means to work with a psychotherapist or a psychologist or a counselor or something like that, go for it, okay? That's super useful. You can have honest conversations with the people in your network, right? You can open up to trusted friends if you are able to open up to family, or if that feels a bit too like, meh, because they're so steeped in that too, then okay, don't do that. But a big part of the acceptance journey is also letting others in, moving away from the independence as a trauma response kind of thing, right? So honest conversations, okay. Mirror work can also be really useful, where you just spend like 5 minutes, 2 minutes even, just in front of a mirror, and you look at yourself and you notice the thoughts that arise when you look at yourself, and consciously, then and there, send love. Send love to yourself. Even if it feels silly, say out loud to yourself, I see you, I accept you, I love you. I love you. I love you. Yeah. where attention goes, energy follows, remember? Simple, so simple, but so effective. Don't undermine the simple things. You could also engage in creative and healing practices, art therapy, yoga, anything that can balance the yang with the yin. Like if you are part of the self-hatred is I've got to go, crash. Maybe for you it's in my accepting myself, in accepting that there's a shadow that I need to go, otherwise I'm done. That self-acceptance looks like, I need some yin in there as well. So yin yoga, right? Other creative outlets that promote balance within and self-expression without trying to perfect the thing. And all of this comes with self-acceptance. But that's the key. Acceptance. Can you accept the shit? Can you accept the swamp that has lived within you so that that swamp you can start moving away those boulders and the water can flow freely again? That comes only from self-acceptance and then the next step, okay? So, in wrapping up this video, I just invite you to really try to love yourself a little more consciously, because it does make a difference. When you can accept yourself, this means you can know yourself. And to know yourself, you must allow yourself to look in the mirror and see the hard things or seek assistance, and then go from there. When you know the truth, you've got reality as it is. And the truth is akin to love, because loving yourself is loving you as you are, in light and in shadow. And then the ripples that you send out are not going to be hate amplifying hate. It's going to be love amplifying love. And remember, do not use this as fuel to the fire of your self-hatred. Like, oh my God, I can't do this. How am I just going to be loving all the time? Maybe you won't be. But can you accept that? That's the game. Yeah? Okay. This topic is so juicy, I could just go on and on and on. But I will leave it there to keep this as a shorter video. If you want to see more content like this, exploring maybe similar themes around self-hatred and self-love and exploring more the roots of these things, let me know. And if you are new to this space, welcome. Bless you. Thank you for hanging out in this amazing corner of the internet. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Click the notification bell if you want to see new content. I've got stuff coming out every week. And give this video a like for me. Help the algorithm do its thing and bring this to the people. And in the meantime, bless you, bless you, bless you. May you find the courage to look at the shit so that there is more space for the light of your beautiful, precious heart and soul to shine through. Where there is a problem, there is a solution. Just take that step, learn to accept, and then the next step will reveal itself. Until the next time, be well.